Meanwhile, though, the picture is not at all rosy for Republicans. Let's put A7 up on the screen. This is JD Vance. Harry Enton on CNN yesterday made the point that JD Vance is the only candidate in modern political history, vice presidential candidate, that comes out of the convention not with a bump. Apparently the average, according to Enton, is 19 points.
And what I love about this clip is that Harry Enton is genuinely, angry about this.
He seems mad.
Yeah, let's roll this.
It's a negative net territory. Look at that, -6 points. I will tell you, Aaron, I have gone all the way back since 1980. He is the first guy after immediately following a convention, a VP pick, who actually had a net negative favorable rating. That is underwater. The average since 2000 is plus 19 points. JD Vance making history in the completely wrong way.
I mean, it's amazing. Plus 19. And I know people talk VPs don't usually matter, but they're usually
they're
not
pretty
a negative.
popular. Usually they're popular. In this case, he's dragging Trump down.
All right. And then there's also Ohio, which I, have been around long enough to have been there on an election night. And the reason I was there, because the person who wins Ohio wins the White House.
Right.
Ohio's a red state now.
Yeah.
So what does the JD Vance pick do for Trump? Obviously, he is senator from Ohio.
There's this whole idea, JD Vance is, going to help out in Ohio, perhaps help out in those Rust Belt, those Great Lake battleground states. But if you look at Ohio, JD Vance won in 2022, but he only won by 6 points. That's worse than Donald Trump did in 2020. It's far worse than Mike DeWine did in 2022. He was the worst performing Republican candidate in 2022 up and down the ballot in the state of Ohio. He had nothing there.
All right, so Trump does very well with white working class voters. That's one of his superpowers. So what does Vance add?
Yeah, what does Vance add? Look, he won white working class voters. He won white voters without a college degree in the state of Ohio. But pretty much every Republican wins white working class voters. And if you look here, again, the margin that Vance put up was the weakest performance of any major Republican. It's worse than Trump did in Ohio. It's worse than Mike DeWine did in Ohio. The J.D. Vance pick makes no sense from a statistical polling perspective, Aaron.
He's rip-roaring mad.
He's mad. And he says at one point...
Mad at this strategic failure.
He's like, I don't understand it. The best way to understand the J.D. Vance pick is that Donald Trump needed somebody who wouldn't, let's make this a verb, pence him, right? He wanted someone who wouldn't pence him in the 11th hour when, you need to do the elector vote. On January 6th, he needed
to stay in power despite losing the election. You better have somebody who doesn't care. And J.D. Vance did say that he would have not done what Mike Pence did, which was his duty, I would say.
I know a lot of people see J.D. Vance as somebody who's sort of a flip-flopper because he quite literally flip-flopped. But one of the things that struck Trump, reportedly, is that Vance is a true believer. And Vance is a true believer. If people are, I get Democrats attacking attacking Vance for flip-flopping on Trump. But that, the truth of the picture is that he is a true believer. He is a true convert to the MAGA world. And for a lot of interesting reasons, he converted to Catholicism. But one thing to understand about J.D. Vance is he is a true believer. And you usually, after the primaries, tack to the center. That's the old saying. And they're not, with J.D. Vance, I don't know. I mean, I know they tried to do, I was at the RNC, I was listening to them, unity, unity, unity. We talked on Deconstructed last week about how Sohrab Ahmari and other people are trying to say that J.D. Vance is the new center, or could be. A smart argument for him to adopt would be that he's the new center. So far, not working clearly if you're down 6, because he's I get why that's off-putting, but it's also because Trump is very off-putting to a lot of people still. And I know his favorability, his unfavorable favorables aren't super high either. So if your sort of claim to fame is becoming a big Trump convert, that's not going to be super appealing to people.
And somebody tweeted that J.D. Vance is what you would get if some tech bros in California tried to grow a redneck in a lab. And it's I kind of get what that argument is saying, because his mother struggled terribly, and it's wonderful that she has recovered and is now approaching, I think, 12 years of sobriety. He was raised by his grandparents, who were pretty well off in a pretty middle-class area of Ohio.
Yeah.
His Appalachian roots are ancestral. And he's clear about that in the book. I'm not calling him out here. Yeah. His family moved before he was born to this region of Ohio, and the book is kind of about that migration out of Appalachia into the kind of Rust Belt suburbia.
Right.
But so that was his actual upbringing in a pretty middle to upper middle class area with his wonderful grandparents.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think it's hard for them to kind of construct the redneck kind of image out of it, especially after years spent on Wall Street and as venture capitalists and in those circles. It's just not the beard isn't quite doing it.
The beard doesn't make it work. Yeah.
And in fact, one of the best hits on this entire MAGA kind of thing that's going on, I think, was by Tim Walz, who I wish we had more time in this world, because Emily and I talked about, I pitched Emily on doing this story where we look at both Minnesota and Iowa, because Minnesota was won by Democrats, a trifecta by like 1%.
Yep.
Like just thousands of votes divided this purple state between Republicans and Democrats. Democrats took control. Iowa was a purple state both of our lives. Republicans won a trifecta in Iowa. Iowa is now as deep red a state as you can get, and they've pushed as hard right an agenda as you can with that type of majority. Just across the border in Minnesota, Democrats did something very unusual for Democrats, which was to actually, deploy power and enact an agenda. And Tim Walz, with that very slim majority, has pushed through. Basically, you look at the Democratic Party platform; they pushed everything through, from minimum wage to pro-union stuff to all the cultural stuff and beyond.
It reminds me of the inverse of Wisconsin when it went red under Scott Walker. Both legislatures, senators, Scott Walker, they pushed the full sort of slate of Republican priorities.
Right, and Tim Walz is a sleeper of a VP pick.
Yes.
And so, anyway, check out how he communicated his differences with Republicans here.
These are weird people on the other side. They want to take books away. They want to be in your exam room. That's what it comes down to. And don't get sugarcoating this. These are weird ideas. Listen to them speak. Listen to how they talk about things. Listen to how your previous guests were right. Like you said, they've told them that they shouldn't talk about race. They can't help it. It is built into their DNA because there is no plan. There's no healthcare plan. There's nothing to do on this. They want to take away our alliances and leave Russia to do whatever they want. Look, they are bad on foreign policy. They are bad on the environment. They certainly have no healthcare plan. And they keep talking about the middle class that, as I said, a robber baron real estate guy and a venture capitalist trying to tell us they understand who we are. They don't know who we are.
Not bad.
It's pretty good.
Politically, not bad. Republicans, by the way, are also, we're going to talk about this in the next block, are also borrowing the weird line of attack on, and arguably not even borrowing it. I feel like Republicans were making this argument for a long time that, they'll talk about the suite of cultural issues, but at the RNC last week, multiple times, speakers on the stage framed this as the election of weird versus normal. And so both sides are now calling each other weird.
Maybe our whole country is just weird. So speaking of weird, let's move on to this great JD Vance clip that has been making the rounds. So let's just jump right into that one.
It is the weirdest thing to me. Democrats say that it is racist to believe, well, they say it's racist to do anything. I had a Diet Mountain Dew yesterday and one today. I'm sure they're going to call that racist too, but it's good. I love you guys. But we're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. And it's just a basic fact. You look at Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, AOC, the entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children. And how does it make any sense that we've turned our country over to people who don't really have a direct stake in it?
Famous cat lady Pete Buttigieg.
Although since then, Buttigieg and Chase had a kid.
Well, it happened a month before that clip.
Oh, really? He hadn't even updated his talking point on that one?
Well, it wasn't updated at that point. But the
Mountain Dew, though, you wanted to defend it, I think.
I was going to say, I actually think Diet Mountain Dew is one of the better diet sodas. I think it's Diet Dr. Pepper and Diet Mountain Dew. Diet Coke's in a league of its own. But Diet Mountain Dew, I'll defend. I think it tastes closest to the original product of many diet sodas.
As a concept, it's just so ridiculous. Like if you take Trump's famous line that he's never seen a thin person drink Diet Coke.
Which, by the way, he was drinking Diet Coke in that golf interview that dropped yesterday.
He's not thin.
He's swilling it.
Mountain Dew is like one of the least unhealthy things you can put in your body, and it's obvious. You just look at it.
Yeah.
Adding diet is not helping. On a family text chain, I had to explain what was going on with this clip here, because like he's trying to insult liberals, but they're actually like they're not getting it. They're like. So the question is like, and maybe a lot of viewers who are actual normal people are watching that clip and being like, wait, I don't understand. Why does he think drinking Diet Mountain Dew is racist? It's like, okay, he doesn't think it's racist, and actually no liberals think it's racist either.
Well, there might be one or two, and they all have like big Twitter platforms, but
what he's saying is that they think everything is racist, and so they will somehow concoct a way that Diet Mountain Dew fits into this schema of racism, and therefore he's racist for drinking a Diet Mountain Dew.
It's very online.
It's very online,
Yeah.
and it says something poor about me that I kind of understood what he was trying to do.
Well, yeah.
Even though he absolutely did not. Now everybody flops a joke. I flop several every show. But wow, he flopped that one badly. Plus with the afterwards, like, hey, I love you guys. It's like, this stuff matters. Style matters, because people are deciding like who they want in their face for the next 4 years, in which we're going to do a lot of criticism of Kamala Harris as she continues to introduce herself to the country over the next 3 months, and we'll get into her kind of weird Venn diagram and stuff like that.
A moment, yeah.
Very fair to say that JD Vance is not wearing well either.
That speech was at his old high school or middle school. I
shouldn't say either yet.
High school, and he was really familiar with the crowd, down to the making jokes about specific teachers. So I think he may have like lost, and this is not a like positive. He may have lost track of the fact that he was giving an address that everyone around the country was going to have access to, that was going to be clipped. And that's obviously one thing to keep in mind when you're just suddenly thrust onto the national stage like this. It's not always going to translate as well when things are clipped and tossed around the internet as it might in person. And the joke is based on something very, very true, which is, you can go down the line if you just type in blank is racist. Some, article 10 years ago in Slate will come up, or BuzzFeed will come up from like 2014 saying, yes, Diet Mountain Dew is racist. That specific article probably doesn't exist, but maybe someone
I'm going to look.
He's Googling it right now.
The first thing Google asked me was bad for you. Yes, it's bad for you.
Yes. So it's not, entirely off base, and it is something that rankles a lot of ordinary Americans that, you can't do anything without being
The
called
Atlantic,
racist.
JD Vance has a point about Mountain Dew. Okay.
Okay. That's written by me. Kidding.
This. You've got to be kidding me. The subheadline in the Atlantic: the soft drink has long been associated with the joy and despair of white America.
Oh, that's really something. That's really something. Anyway, we probably shouldn't go too deep down the Diet Mountain Dew rabbit hole.
I gotta go.
But
I can't.
He's just closing the computer. Hey, if you liked that video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Breaking Points.
If you want to see the rest of Counterpoints, go to breakingpoints.com to become a premium member and get the full uncut show every morning in your inbox and on Spotify.